what people will do for a little entertainment system.
It's midnight.
I'm here for the PlayStation 2. The best entertainment system to hit the world.
The next generation for us as developers is extremely exciting.
It's gonna be great.
The PS2 was initially released in March of 2000 in Japan, and later October of the same year in North America. It would subsequently be released over the course of the next 3 years. What? Anyway, it's the highest selling console of all time, it's cheaper than a DVD player, so way more people buy it.
Plays DVD, that's a plus, am I right?
And it debuts some of the greatest games of all time, and the not so greatest of all time.
This fight has my nipples so hard, I can hardly contain myself.
It's the second coming of Jesus video game Christ, but I don't give a shit about the PS2. At least not today. I wanted to take a look, not a deep dive, just like a hover over the pond and look a little bit through the surface kind of look at what was going on with other consoles during the month of the launch of the PS2. Considering that I'm a proud Canadian citizen, I'll be looking at the North American release of October of 2000.
In the world of games, a revolution happens every couple years or so, and another one is upon us courtesy of Sega. Sega's Dreamcast is storming onto the streets of Japan right now, and 5 new titles will be released surrounding the launch, including Virtua Fighter 3 and Sega Rally 2. Japanese players can also expect RPGs, sports, and wrestling games. But last but not least, the biggest game for Dreamcast is the triumphant return of Sonic the Hedgehog in Sonic Adventure. And I was on hand in Tokyo for Sonic's unveiling. Check it out.
Talking about video game consoles can sometimes be similar to talking about basketball players. This is not true, but it does lead to my idiotic analogy that I want to make. Asking a Sega fan, or even an older Capcom fan, what the Dreamcast was like is like asking a basketball fan to talk about prime Derrick Rose. You'll see the light in their eyes just disappear as tears start to form as they reminisce on better days. Think of what could have been.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer!
I know this because I am both those people. Before we, as a society, and the video game industry equivalent of taking the Dreamcast out to Fortnite game and it in the back of the head, the Dreamcast was an absolute beast when it came to late game arcade ports and whatever big swings Sega would attempt as a developer. Sega during the Dreamcast years felt like peak Gynax, where they would just let the dorks run wild and throw everything at the wall to see what would stick with shit like the game we will talk about later, no spoilers, Shenmue, and the greatest game of all time, Sega Bass Pro Fishing. The Dreamcast released between the PS1 and the PS2. It was definitely more powerful than anything out at the time of the release, but wouldn't be able to compete with the upcoming that would release just a year later, and that's not even taking into account how big the 2 would actually be. That's just based on how powerful these devices were. Like chasing the newest hardware to be ahead of the game and things like 128-bit graphics.
Better graphics means it's more realistic. And embattled Sega's new Dreamcast video game console is graphically better. The first home unit able to handle 128 computer bits of data at once. Twice as much as the Sony PlayStation and Nintendo 64 machines that dominate the $12 billion a year U.S. video game market.
And honestly, pretty revolutionary online gaming technology and software, Sega had essentially shot themselves in the foot and run a marathon minutes before the actual race started. The Dreamcast was sent out to die.
Imposter, I'm just a middle-class worker from Toronto. In spite of how I sound, single one platinum bigger than Marley and Jimmy and Yellowman, but I'm not even mulatto. My reggae's watered down. Hear me on the radio, think I could not be blacker, but on my video, you see I'm really a cracker, pretending I was a rasta since I was in jammies. I should pay my base and start betting out Mary.
The Grinch for the Dreamcast is a port of the PS1 game with the same name. The game was released as a tie-in for the live-action Jim Carrey movie. Obviously, they couldn't get my glorious Dr. Robotnik to return for the game.
I'll stick with it. You know what?
Who the fuck is that? It's actually Josh Gerhardt, who has about one other voice acting credit. This isn't the first or last time the Dreamcast received a heightened port of a PS1 game or even an N64 game. I think this game and the other Dreamcast game I'll be covering today, secret, perfectly encapsulate what the support and game releases were like for most of the Dreamcast lifespan. Less than mid-tier level PS1 ports and amazing and ambitious original games developed by Sega or one of their close affiliates at the time. When playing Jim Carrey's Nightmare Christmas Adventure, it's quite difficult to tell this is on the Dreamcast. That's because this is footage of the PS1 version. Here's what the game looks like on a console twice as powerful. Yeah, they didn't do shit, it's the same fucking game. Though it does have some redeeming qualities, like, George Lowe, voice of Space Ghost, serving as the narrator, making everything sound like a grandiose superheroic event.
I don't need intelligent drugs, Tom, because I don't know what they are. Okay, Tom?
Yeah.
But I will put anything into my mouth that is given to me.
Even when what he's describing is how Grinch's ass is so powerful it can destroy anything.
The Grinch likes to break things with his robust behind. He'll flatten and smush to get out of a bind. This power is one that he completely controls. He'll pancake anything to attain all his goals.
Or being the Green Sex Machine's #1 dick rider when describing his monstrous strength.
The strength of the Grinch is a legend in Whoville. There's nothing he can't move with Grinch muscle and will.
With those two powers and the breath of an elf player, the Grinch jumps around and solves preschooler-level puzzles, all the while being an affront to my eyes. Look, I don't want to sit around for another 10 minutes talking about the Dr. Seuss movie tie-in game. You run, you jump, you crush things with your girth and tonnage.
I just busted right inside him, and he can't extend on me anymore, and he seems a little overwhelmed by my girth and tonnage, right?
Oh, and you can turn into the dog to do like Lego Star Wars mini door puzzles. Also, I can't talk about the game anymore because the game broke on me when it finished the tutorial, so I couldn't progress. I lied. There's more than 2 Dreamcast games today.
All right, well, if you've played games like Quake, you know how hard this can be on your fingers and on your brain. In fact, it ought to be an Olympic sport, I would think.
The Dreamcast, being the cutting edge of console technology at the time, would also get ports of PC games, like this one and the infamously cancelled Half-Life port that you can actually play now. Funny enough, the original Half-Life was actually built on a modded version of the Quake engine. So. Quake 3 Arena is the third installment in id Software's third generation of Angry Guy is really angry and shoots people. Maybe fourth generation, depending on how you interpret the events of Commander Keen. As you can probably tell from the title, Quake 3 Arena completely ditches the single-player campaign from the previous 2 games to focus solely on multiplayer.
But what about the Strogg invasion?
I love Quake. I like Quake 2, and I even like Quake 3 Arena for what it is. Look, I can enjoy it for some fun Quake-flavored arena shooting multiplayer. What I don't like is Quake 3 Arena for the Dreamcast. Before I get to exactly why, here's a funny bit of video game history. You know Halo? Well, Halo is said to have revolutionized first-person shooters with multiple aspects, with one of the most important being its buttery smooth controls.
They really make you feel like a 12-foot tall white guy wearing a suit that jerks them off.
You know what's the funny and kind of sad part? Halo gets the credit for this control scheme. You know who actually debuted these controls? Uprising X for the PS1.
I'm not counting the two-controller bullshit with GoldenEye.
Halo Mountain Dew Gamer Fuel flavored history tangent aside, what I'm trying to get at here is that Quake 3 Arena released after Uprising X and even Alien Resurrection on the PS1, which had the same control scheme, but before Halo. So the standard control FPS control scheme that we're all used to wasn't actually the standard yet. This, coupled with the fact that Sega in their infinite wisdom released a console after the DualShock with a controller with only one thumbstick and less buttons. I know it's based off the Saturn's 3D controller, I love you Nights into Dreams, but come the fuck on, guys. This made it so Quake 3 Arena plays like what a NecoArc main's room smells like. You use the left thumbstick to use a camera that works hyperspeed, by the way, and the face buttons to move around. The left and right triggers are used for jumping and firing respectively. Alright, let's get the obvious out first. The face buttons for movement is pretty unintuitive, as any Joy-Con warrior can attest to.
What? No, dude!
Unlike with a D-pad, where all the directions are connected in the center, letting you rock the D-pad from one direction to the other, creating a smooth transition.
Man, fuck.
The gap in the face buttons makes it so anytime you want to change a direction, going from down to left, down to right, or God forbid, down to up, or even any other combination of these directions, you have to start and stop anytime you do so. This makes it so instead of gliding around the map with the grace of an Olympic figure skater and a beautiful symphony of surprisingly agile Mr. Olympia candidates and explosions, the game plays out more like 7-year-old me nearly crying and passing out trying to perfect a song at my local movie theater's Dance Dance Revolution machine. Sadly, today, I don't get to gush about Quake or even Quake 3. Today, I'm stuck making my thumbs bleed trying to get a single win against the CPU on Quake 3 Arena for the Dreamcast.
Hello, citizens of Europe. As spokesperson for SAPS, the Society Against PlayStation, I'd like to talk to you about a menace threatening humanity. It's happening right here, in our very homes, and corrupting the lives of our loved ones. Yes, friends, I'm talking about this. It may look like a harmless bagel toaster, but inside is a deadly donut. How do you know PlayStation is not a normal game system? It carries these telltale signs. Scientists say its effects are mind-boggling. Remember, do not underestimate the power of PlayStation.
$2.99.
The PlayStation 1, or as it's known in other circles, the P-Sex, was released in 1994 in Japan and 1995 in North America, to critical acclaim for being epic and having the first of way too many Final Fantasy VIIs. Okay, let me run through it off the dome. Wait a minute. So Final Fantasy VII, and then Final Fantasy VII Before Crisis. I'm not going to say them in order. Final Fantasy VII Before Crisis. Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core. Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus, Final Fantasy VII Dirge of Cerberus Lost Episode, Final Fantasy VII, this is a movie, but Final Fantasy VII Advent Children and Advent Children Complete. Oh god, what else? Fuck. Final Fantasy VII G-Bike, Final Fantasy VII Snowboarding, Final Fantasy VII The First Soldier, Final Fantasy VII Remake, obviously, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, sorry. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is then the third one. I don't know if it has a title yet. Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core Reunion. The two light novels. I don't know the names of. And then some. Oh, Final Fantasy VII. Did I say Ever Crisis? Fuck it, man. I think that's all of them. Created after Sony got reasonably pissed when Nintendo cheated on them with a guy named Philip, the station for players was extremely successful, helped in part by adding a controller whose first version was the Super Nintendo controller for people with pinky fingers, and the second added 2 glorious fidget toys after the N64 dropped the ball by featuring a controller with the most fragile branding iron as its main selling point. At this point, the Activity Center was coughing up blood and being wheeled out ready to feature in a Canadian government ad telling you that you should kill yourself now.
Is it working?
The best and last Final Fantasy for the console had released months prior. It was time to wrap it up. Everyone had pretty much given up on the little guy and was getting ready for... everyone except 2 special little buddies, Insomniac and Capcom.
Spyro's back. Can you take the heat? Rated E for everyone. PlayStation.
Before we get to my beloved capsule commercial, let's take a look at the present-day Marvel game machine. Spyro, Year of the Dragon, is the 3rd installment in the Spyro the Dragon series, which began on the very same console and went on to have a possibly more mediocre high school career than its schizophrenic orange cousin.
Gollum from the deep. They are the embodiment of destruction summoned by Malifaux himself. These are dark times.
He needs to be stopped. I have to stop him.
Hey, it's Elijah Wood.
I love this little purple dragon, but just like Crash and many other mascot platformers of his time, his original games don't stray too far from one another. If you've played one of the first 3 Spyro games, if you haven't, the original Spyro the Dragon games are action platformers where you control a purple Tom Kenny dragon jumping and flying around burning sheep, orc, and other various fantastical creatures, saving other dragons and gathering precious gems by going around, blowing up shit and completing challenges in magical lands with glorious skyboxes, all the while listening to a phenomenal soundtrack composed by the former The Police drummer, Stuart Copeland. You know what to expect, which is completely fine. I wish the mentality of every new game sequel having to completely rewrite the script and any asset or mechanic reuse is a sin would just kind of disappear. It's fine if the sequel is just the thing again with some improvements. The only issue this brings is that it doesn't leave me with much to say, except, and I hate constantly talking about the little Technicolor rodent. No, the other one. No, the other one. He's from the same game as the other one. I swear to God, I'm talking about this one. Crash the Bandicoot also debuted on the PS1 and had a 3rd mainline game that shared the same structure as Spyro's 3rd game. Both were tired of doing the exact same thing as their previous games and decided to shake up the formula by introducing a shit ton of different playstyles to spice things up. With Crash, it was mostly different vehicle levels, spliced in between more normal Crash levels. Spyro instead featured various new playable characters with new playstyles. This approach mostly worked out for Crash, with a lot of fans still considering Crash 3, to this day, being the peak of the series. But this, in my opinion, is not the case for Spyro so much. This approach ended up spreading our beloved little flying Barney a bit too thin. A lot of money and development time that was spent on building entirely new characters could have definitely been spent on more levels and challenge types, because Spyro has one of the worst cases of collectathon shenanigans I've ever seen.
No, go away, leave!
A good majority of your playthrough, especially if you have gamer goblin brain like I do, is spent backtracking and roaming around the same short list of areas doing very samey tasks over and over again. Spyro had flown a lot of miles on this hardware. It is clear that Insomniac was ready to move on and do something new. Spyro 3 ends up being a bit of a whimper of a finale to this trilogy and trying to be a bit too big for its own good. I think a fitting quote would be,
"Its wings are too small to get its fat little body off the ground."
Give me a fat
The second Legend of Mana Mega is exactly what I was talking about with Spyro and Crash, with making gameplay-wise very little changes between games, as Blue Sky Pirate 2, oh no, my mom might be a terrorist, is pretty much the same as the first game, but with some quality of life improvements. You spend your time going around beautifully rendered and charming cities, and unfortunately pretty drab and whatever looking dungeons. You fight through some admittedly not great camera controls, circle strafing every enemy and boss you see to obtain cool new attachments and upgrades to your Buster Cannon. Look, if you can stomach some sort of bland dungeon designs and get over the initial hump of the controls, you're greeted with possibly the most charming presentation of cast of characters to ever grace the virtual world. I love Volnut, Roll, the Bonds, the Surbots, and everyone else. Cutscenes. Oh man, the cutscenes. I know this is a weird thing to gush about, especially for a Megaman game, but like these two games in Final Fantasy XII have some of the best and most engaging cutscenes in any video game.
Now tell me, just what do you think you're doing here? I thought you had gotten out of the pirate game,
Stuff it, Clyde. Mind your own business. We've got enough problems as it is.
What, did your little department store go under already?
No, it hasn't gone under. We're just a little in the red this month, that's all. Just need a little extra cash to make ends meet.
If you didn't buy only what you like, maybe we wouldn't be in this fix.
Shut your traps. I'm trying to listen to what he's saying. What did you say, you big tin can? Who do you think you are?
No squabbling till the job's finished. Remember, Teasel?
Teasel.
Just like whenever Storm starts talking in X-Men media, whenever these cutscenes come on, I sit my ass down and listen. The presentation of both Legends games, I'm not talking about X-Men anymore, please stop. Both Mega Man Legends games have such superb Saturday morning cartoon vibes that I can't help but have the biggest smile on my face the entire time I'm playing them. I've heard complaints of the second game getting repetitive, but for me, the better story more than makes up for it. This was Capcom's last North American release for the console, and is a worthy candidate for the studio's finale on this hardware. I'm keeping it short, please just go play them.
Look who's back. And this time, the two of you are partners in the latest installment of the Pokemon saga. It's Pokemon Yellow, the special Pikachu edition for Game Boy Color, where it's you and Pikachu catching as many as you can together. Look for the Pokemon Yellow Bundle Pack. It includes a limited edition Pokemon Game Boy and Yellow Game Pack.
The Game Boy Color was somehow still the hot handheld on the market, even though in reality it was more than ancient hardware at this point. This thing was still selling like crazy, mostly because of the ongoing Pokemania that hadn't even finished its reign on this console yet. Also because feeble late 90s and early 2000s quote-unquote gamers couldn't stomach a better portable console. Or the Gamecom. Anyway, because of the different market, the Game Boy Color wasn't really affected by the release of the and would continue to sell decently even after the release of its brother, the machine that plays Astro Boy Omega Factor. Therefore, the Game Boy Color isn't the most interesting console to talk about in terms of this specific topic, but I still have to because it had game releases in October of 2000.
xiaohongshu.
심심해. 여기야, 여기. 죄송합니다. 나랑 놀자. 나랑 놀자.
네이트 누르고 게임 누르면
심심타파야.
이제 네이트에서 즐기자. 보글보글 일관.
Bust-a Move Millennium, or as it's known by humans, the Puzzle Bobble game on the Game Boy is another Puzzle Bobble game. If you played Puzzle Bobble before, if you haven't, yeah, we're doing this bit again. Puzzle Bobble is a series of tile-matching puzzle games featuring cute dragon or dinosaur mascots shooting bubbles at other ones of various colors. The aim is to match 3 or more of the same color, which destroys them and any attached. You repeat this until you or your opponent gets swallowed up by the unpopped bubbles. Basically, toxic bubbles are going to kill this cute little dragon, and if you don't play by God's sick and twisted rules and pop them by matching colors before they get them, you know what to expect. Puzzle Bobble Millennium does add 2 new things to the formula. Frustration, caused by this installment's lackluster aiming, where the game seems to not have a full arc in the pointer arrow's trajectory, making it almost impossible to make precise shots since a third of the angles you'd expect to have either don't exist or are stuck between 2 other ones the game really wants you to use instead. The other thing it adds is a bare-bones story mode. Oh, never mind. The better Puzzle Bobble 4, which released prior, also had one. I guess the only thing that Millennium adds is subpar aiming. Look, this game doesn't suck, far from it, actually. It's pretty good. But unless you're for some reason on a quest to play every Puzzle Bobble game ever, you can definitely get your fix elsewhere. With installments like the aforementioned Puzzle Bobble 4, or honestly, whatever the newest or most successful game is for you. Puzzle Bobble is pretty hard to fuck up.
Donald's going quackers on video games now. You can save Daisy from the evil Murloc and control Donald's explosive temper. It's non-stop wacky quacky video game action. Rated E for everyone. Disney's Donald Duck Going Quackers available now.
Donald Duck Going Quackers, developed by Ubisoft. Yeah, like Assassin's Creed Ubisoft, like Rayman Ubisoft, like Star Wars Outlaws Out Now Ubisoft, like template for every mid-tier open world game Ubisoft.
Yeah, he'll stop at some point.
The game was published by Ubisoft. It was released on the Everything. No, like seriously, the everything. But thankfully, for my sanity, only the Game Boy Color version was released in October. The game begins and we see Donald Duck alongside who the fuck are you people?
Gladstone Gander? Gyro Gear Loose?
Donald Duck is chilling with his bum-ass friends, watching the TV to see Donald's math class friend, Daisy, reporting as a journalist on the news. Oh, sorry, that's the PS1 cutscenes. We're playing the Game Boy Color one. Here you go. Until she gets kidnapped by Christopher Lloyd from the DuckTales movie, and Donald has to save her. Now you, the player, yes, you specifically, has to help Donald traverse various locations, going from level to level, running and jumping on enemies, making sure not to lose your hat. I think it's a hat. Making sure that the duck gets safely to his
long hair, brown skin with the fat ass.
Sorry. Look, this is pre-time skip Donald, so he isn't the most powerful magic user in the Final Fantasy franchise like he is now.
Donald, no!
The guy can jump on enemies or with a power-up or run right through them to kill him.
This is all I got.
You know when other YouTubers show off stuff like top 10 licensed video game gems and some of the top ones are always older Disney ones? Yeah, this ain't one of them. If you want to play a Donald Duck 2D platformer that's good, just go play World of Illusion on the Genesis. That game is genuinely great. And if you're looking for Game Boy Color platformers, I don't know, Megaman Extreme, Super Mario Land, Shantae, you have more than enough options. I don't know why you would specifically want to play Donald Duck Going Quackers on the Game Boy Color, but like, have fun, I guess. As for me, my experience did not make me go quackers. In fact, it was pretty bland, with the only time in which I had a pulse being this boss fight with a bear, where I was getting pretty pissed at this fucking idiot because he couldn't finish the play off of absolute dots I was sending him.
Yeah, like holy fucking smoke, another open layup, you fuzzy piece of shit.
Guys, we are finally here. It's the game I've been hyping up this entire time. Nah, I'm playing. We're out of licensed game hell though. We gotta hit a pit stop at this little game called Pokemon Gold and Silver. I'm gonna give it 100. I did not replay this game for this video. I know Pokemon. You know Pokemon. There's like a billion videos about these fucking games on the site already, and the Game Boy Color is already barely relevant to the fucking PS2. So I'm not gonna waste your time, or my time, talking about them. I have the Grinch PS1 game to record, of course. If you haven't played them yet, first off, how? Second off, you should. They're good. What a surprise. Are you guys ready? We're actually here. We're actually fucking here. We made it to the super secret unknown gem of a game that I've kept hidden this entire time, that you could have never figured out what it was, even if you checked the timeline before this, you fucking bitch. Of course. It's Skies of Arcadia. Yeah, I'm talking about Skies of Arcadia. published by Sega. The game was developed by Overworks, who would later merge with WoW Entertainment. Ew, ew. Ew, 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 gross, get away from me, no, ah! With the Sega WoW Entertainment to form what is now known as Sega AM1. Before being renamed to Overworks, the team was Sega CS2. They were an R&D group responsible for assisting with such titles as Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Streets of Rage, Sakura Wars, Phantasy Star, and World of Illusion, starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. I'm so fucking smart. By the time that Sega of America and Sega of Japan was having their little petty feud,
The 32X is going to be epic. Yeah, but the Saturn will be epicer.
which would later cost them the entire console market, Sega CS2 was renamed to Overworks, where they helped develop all of this shit. And then Overworks made an angel cry. Skies of Arcadia is a turn-based role-playing game where you play as sky pirates and find some cool shit, and then you beat up some dudes with your sick-ass laser sword and shoot some other dudes like pew, 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 and then explode like I'm so sorry.
But Pastor, I don't like turn-based RPGs. They're lame, except Persona. That one's different.
Broaden your taste, you absolute fucking goober. Skies of Arcadia is so lovely. It features beautiful locales and just the most charming little character models. These little heroic scale looking freakazoids. The story is nothing groundbreaking, but it doesn't have to be. Its execution, just like what I was talking about with Megaman Legends, is tight. It's so fun that it never fails to bring a smile to my face. The characters never feel the need to make constant quips. They just seem happy to be themselves. All the main players have strong personalities and designs. Vice, our little would-be captain, is our typical hothead with a strong desire to explore new horizons as a pirate, discover the undiscoverable, and will punch out any evil rich person without a second thought if they hurt others. Wait a minute. Oh, it's like Luffy. It's like Luffy One Piece. Mickey wada Luffy. Aika, who always ends up being the MVP of my crew gameplay-wise, is our big mouth, no-nonsense best friend with a boomerang. Her fiery spirit and tenacity makes her an absolute cheerleader, but also someone who wouldn't have a second thought before murdering thousands if it was to help Vice. And of course, Princess Fina, whose political ties, mixed with her want to rebel, kicks off the major plot and leads us to meeting new allies like Enrique, our resident Captain Ahab stand-in, because of course we have one, Drachma, and fucking Gilder, hell yeah! As for the villains, they're the perfect taste of camp and cheese that the story needs. Pre-Twink Death Kai Kisuke Ramirez, average Gene Stealer cult player and superior Spider-Man profile picture, De Loco.
LA? Dominic DeCoco, come here.
Twitter MCU Wanda Stan Bellaza. D1 Super Senior Vigoro, who reminds me of a certain FF10 party member I can't remember the name of right now.
The race war starts now!
The protagonist of every mid-tier Space Marine book you've ever read, Gregorio. My favorite Rothschild Nepo Baby Bishojo Nightmare, Alfonso. God, I love you, you fucking loser. Galshin, our certified Fire Emblem villain that gets possessed or killed by some demon, back when those games were written to tell stories and not just sell toys. And finally, Japan's weird aversion to women over 30, Empress Theodora. Old hag erasure is real, and I stand by you, ladies. The actual turn-based combat system doesn't have any revolutionary new ideas for the genre like the SMT ProRes turn system.
Can I have a turn, please?
Or Hot Shots Tennis for the PS2, and isn't an expertly crafted version of tried and true mechanics like Final Fantasy IX or Hot Shots Tennis for the PS2. What Arcadia does offer is a more than adequate combat system, with attacks that are more or less effective depending on how well thought out your positioning is relative to the position of the enemies, similar to like Chrono Trigger. No dual text though, because we can't have nice things in this world, alongside a good bit of customization for both your team and individual characters, with the game's moonstones letting that little goblin in your head run rampant, trying to min-max the hell out of these murderous anti-establishment teenagers and grown men. The power of the moon.
Moons, give me strength!
You can modify and improve each party member's spells and abilities by collecting moonstones throughout the game and turn your ragtag bunch of loner goobers into a cohesive unit of mass destruction. Or you could go the other route and not use your other team members and fully transform Vice into a solo combat beast who can harness the flames of disaster. The Idris Elba aside, the more interesting piece of customization in the game comes with how you can explore and modify your own pirate ship. By finding and upgrading pieces like cannons, torpedoes, and engines, you can beef up your own defenses and offenses to take down other ships in the game's aerial naval combat. This combat system is also turn-based, with obviously more limited options when it comes to attacking, but with more of an emphasis on positioning. One bad maneuver and the enemy can get behind you and blow up your engines, causing critical damage and crush you. Shit is real, both on and off the ship. Both the customization and combat for both your ship and its crew all comes together to let you, the player, have your own very personalized pirate story. Then the game was subsequently crushed by the release of the PS2. Everyone except the PS2 was doing pretty much the exact same thing they were doing before, releasing shovelware licensed games alongside Sega and Capcom, who were releasing genuinely amazing original games that would get swarmed and drowned under the hype of other releases, unless they were Street Fighter. But even then, sometimes. Nintendo was just kind of doing their own thing and getting money from their cult because of it. Since the PS2 started the trend, with one Blu-ray player hiccup, of just winning, I guess Sony grew an insane ego and is kind of just running the industry in like an evil dictatorship, while their competitor is just running in circles, monopolizing games as a whole. What did we learn today? If the PS2 hadn't crushed everything else when it released, we probably would have gotten Mega Man Legends 3 instead of 4 Last of Us remasters and Horizon Zero Dawn shoved down our throats every 2 fucking minutes. Before I go, if you made it to the end of the video, comment Donald Duck going quackers. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, strangle the fucking bell to get notifications. Anyways, hope to see you soon. I need to go play Final Fantasy 12, or kind of just want to watch like Eureka 7 or something at this point. Big McThanky from McSpanky. Bye-bye.